sitting there. He is snacking on.
Against Magnus Carlsen in this tournament. He almost beat Magnus with white in the preliminary stage. It was a draw. He had a great position yesterday. He managed to beat Magnus Carlsen today with the white pieces as well. So Dubov, he's much more confident with the white pieces. We see something very similar to what we've seen earlier today, actually exactly the same as what we've seen earlier today. The Catalan opening at Magnus white pawns, but Daniil Dubov, he's known for these unconventional ideas, and we will see how Magnus Carlsen reacts. Magnus playing much quicker in the opening than he did in the last game, showing he's much more confident right now. Black's knight nicely placed in the centre of the board. Dubov playing the same rook manoeuvre that Yavankova didn't really approve of.
Yeah, no, I didn't approve of it then. I'm not sure I approve of it now. So, yeah, but interestingly enough, this is pretty mainline, so now we're actually getting to see
2 rows, not really doing too much right now, but okay, Magnus calls Dubov's bluff. He says, okay, I know you love to sacrifice pawns. I'm gonna appease you this time. I'm gonna humour you, and I'm gonna take that pawn. Magnus Carlsen now a pawn up, but Daniil Dubov, he doesn't care about such material, such kind of petty little details. He's gonna try and start pushing forward with white, maybe occupy the centre. Daniil Dubov, he needs to create something, as you mentioned, Yavankova. He's probably studied this position before. It's just whether he recalls that, whether he knows the ideas. Dubov pushing a pawn in the corner there, stopping Black from pushing forward with his own pawns on the left side.
Yeah, and the issue for Black will be all about that light squared bishop. If that light squared bishop does not get active, then white will always have a really good position. But once that bishop is out, even if it's
with the more natural moves, and that's very important in Blitz, no matter what the evaluation, no matter what the objective sense of the moves. If your position is easy to play, that's a huge bonus. Now we see a set of pawns being traded. White's knight's looking good in the centre, but kind of getting in the way of Black's position right now.
Well, he's mobilised his rook towards the open line, white pieces to attack the king.
And I think we're learning from Dubov as well. There might not be an immediate attack, but White's worst piece right now is his rook in that bottom left corner. So if he can start pushing the pawn in front of it up, then maybe that rook
I like the idea, actually. I mean, that's a great idea, because one of the things that White really heavily depends upon is this light squared bishop that is tucked away next to the king on the right. And what you want to do with bishops at all stages is lengthen their diagonals. And you can see now that pawn is being
Black's whole left side right now.
So this is like super instructive play by Dubov about lengthening the bishop and then advancing the pawn as far as it can go, just to be a battering ram.
And the computer is liking Daniil's position right now after a few moves here.
Yeah, I like White's position as well. With his last move, Dubov's created a pin with his rook. Black's knight now is paralysed. It cannot move because there's an undefended piece behind it. Meanwhile, Daniil Dubov, the only downside for his position, it's very healthy right now, it looks great for White, but the only downside is that the queens are off. Magnus is great in these endgames, and it's not a long-term advantage for White. If Black and Magnus unravel the black pieces, can he get a bit active, or if he can't break out, he might be in trouble.
Yeah, you can see Magnus has shifted his rook to one side, and that is just to try to, maybe not now, Magnus Carlsen. This is exactly how the world champion plays.
Yeah, Magnus has come up with a great move, putting his knight under attack, the black knight. And yes, it's a critical moment, because if he can't find something immediate now, then the advantage will disappear. Again, we see the trade. Black's problem child, that bishop has been changed. I expect to see maybe a trade of rooks, and White start to bring the other rook across to the centre. That's the only way to continue the initiative, to keep peddling, keep creating threats.
Yes, I mean, Black isn't out of the woods just yet, because if you look at those, that lovely triangle on the left, they're all on the light squares, and of course White has a light squared bishop. So White has the right weapons for the job.
Yeah, he has the right weapons for the job, and right now Black's pieces, they're terrible. All those black pieces on the back row. But Magnus Carlsen slowly, he's finding some really
computer doesn't like it.
Yeah, Black's knight heading towards the edge of the board. We don't normally recommend that, and maybe the computer's saying, okay, human logic is sometimes right. That knight on the edge of the board looking a bit odd. I would have tried to develop it a different way. Now White's rook, 7th heaven, we called it the other day, on the 7th row now, 7th rank. That rook is going to be hard to evict. He's got targets as well. It's still difficult for Black to break free. Break free, but he does have all knights in his now.
And remember, Daniil Dubov needs a winner to take him to Armageddon. A draw or a win for Magnus Carlsen is enough to take him to the semi-finals. And the bar is reacting.
Yeah, ahead. Okay, he kicks the white bishop back first. The white bishop king heads across to try and kick away his rook, and white's knight ganging up against the same pawn there. And okay, Magnus Carlsen finds the key move block. 5 seconds now. Critical moment. He has to retreat. That is a very bad sign for Daniil Dubov.
Yeah.
As soon as you start retreating, you lose momentum. And we mentioned it. White's rook is trapped. Now White's rook attacked. The only way to defend it is with a knight, but it's hanging together by a thread now for Dubov. If Magnus Carlsen can trade off that white knight, I think Carlsen's going to win. White's rook it was so powerful 2 moves ago. Now it's just trapped. White's rook has no retreat, whereas Magnus Carlsen, he's got this in the bag. He just needs to.
I mean, can he do a maneuver around? And he's doing it. He's attacking the knight, and now Dubov's knight is just totally trapped.
Yep. Black can now just capture the white knight. There we go. The protection has been lost. White's rook under attack.
But wait, David, there's been a big development because Dubov, the magician, strikes again.
We'll see the bar.
Oh, look at Magnus Carlsen. Has he blundered terribly? Yes.
Magnus Carlsen blundered, but the bar will catch up soon. White is now suddenly 2 pawns up. I wrote it off too soon, you're right. You told me to wait. I was saying Black was winning, but he missed. White sacrifices rook and won 2 pawns in the process. White is 2 pawns up, but there's opposite colour bishops. Maybe it's not enough to win. It's touch and go here. It's in the balance, but White is the only one who can win right now with 2 extra pawns.
There the bar catches up. It's saying that Daniil Dubov could be winning this.
Yeah, he could be winning. I mean, it's an opposite colour bishop endgames, and they are notoriously drawish. I mean, the big thing is though that Dubov is 2 pawns up, so now it's all about whether White's king can penetrate, White can create a passed pawn. If they manage to do that, then basically Dubov has won and will take the match to Armageddon. But okay,
So little time on the clock for both of them, especially for Daniil Dubov.
and if Magnus can do what he doesn't believe in, build a fortress, it will just be a draw.
Yeah, Magnus Carlsen famously saying that he doesn't believe in fortresses, but here that's his only hope right now. Black has to hope that he can hold on those dark squares. He has to hope that White can't create 2 passed pawns. That's the way to win in these endgames. He's hassling his white pawns from behind there, but White's just stepping forward. Daniil Dubov pushing forward. He's going to start activating the white king shortly. It does look very, very good for White right now.
It definitely does look very good for White, but one thing that is in Black's favour is that White's pawn on the left side isn't so far advanced. And you kind of really want that pawn to be as far up the board as possible, just to kind of overstretch the defensive powers of this dark square bishop, because there's an old saying, the bishop can't dance in 2 weddings.
First time I've heard that one.
Yeah, actually, I picked it up from a book of chess sayings, believe it or not.
And now Magnus Carlsen's had to step backwards. White's king is
Yeah.
going to jump forward. I'm shocked by that last decision by Daniil Dubov. He committed so early. I would have just danced around for 20 moves, just gained some time on the clock,
Yeah.
and then pushed that one. There was no rush. He's going immediately for the window.
Yeah.
White now had 2 passed
Yeah.
pawns.
And one critical thing actually I want to point out about these 2 passed pawns is that very far apart, and this favours the attacker.
Yeah, but normally they do say in opposite colour bishops endgames you want 3 empty lines between your passed pawns. Here, there's only 2 empty lines between White's pawns, so it's not 100% clear that this is going to be enough to win, despite what the computer says. Computers struggle to evaluate fortresses, so
Yeah.
will Magnus Carlsen be able to hold this one? Starting to think maybe Daniil Dubov rushed a bit with that decision. He should have just made a flurry of quick moves, worked out the winning plan. Magnus Carlsen, his ideas are not going to change, so Dubov rushing there, but okay, his pawns are starting to roll. And maybe if he can get his pawn on the left there, if he can get that just a few squares further forward, he should win. White's bishop now cannot be taken, otherwise the other pawn would run forward in the middle there.
It's so not easy. I mean, you heard here the strategy that every endgame player needs to employ. Move around, dance a bit. Don't commit yourself until you have the time on the clock to figure everything out.
Daniil Dubov going under 10 seconds on the clock.
And there we see the first sign of indecision and maybe kind of confusion from Dubov. He did repeat the position a couple of times. The white king, it wants to step forward, but it has to also protect its the pawn next to it. And yeah, Magnus Carlsen doing a great job so far of stifling Daniil Dubov's ideas of not letting the fortress break. And we'll see, can Daniil Dubov get his pawn there running forward on the left? He has to start pushing it sooner or later.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, he has to push it. But the problem is that once he starts pushing the pawn, the king can no longer join in the fun. So the king will have to do some dance and perhaps go to the other.
Yeah, it's not looking great for Dubov. He committed his pawns too soon, too early. He could have waited earlier. He should have tried to create a different pass pawn, tried to keep 3 lines between them. At the moment, if we look at the bottom there, white has a pawn on the B line and the E line. That's just too close together. So despite the computer saying it's winning, I'm not so sure. I don't think it... I'm not sure it is. White's king now has to try and sneak itself around the long way. He has to come from that right side. He's going to try and outflank the black king, but it's not going to be easy.
He needs a winner, Daniil Dubov, to take it to Armageddon, so I bet he's going to try.
Okay, well now is a very important moment. The king cannot be allowed to step forward. Well, I mean, why has Magnus allowed the king to step forward?
White's king now steps forward towards that left side. It should be able to guide its own pawn now on that B line, on the left side, forward. But Daniil Dubov, he's done the hard work. He's managed to get his king in. As you say, Ivanka, why did Magnus allow that? He didn't need to.
That was absolutely unnecessary. He played that move so quickly. Okay.
The other problem for White, okay, White's king stepping back now. Again, a bit of indecision there by Daniil Dubov. But the other problem for White is if the 2 pawns there, the 2 pass pawns on the B and the E lines, if they disappear for Black's bishop, actually, that might even be a draw because Black's king would be able to hide in the top right corner on a dark square, and bishop and pawn, even against the bare king, cannot win if it's the wrong coloured corner square. Daniil Dubov, he's not made much progress now over the last 25 moves or so. He's still dancing around with his king, still trying to find a way through.
How many moves are needed?
White last pushed a pawn just a few moves ago on move 72, so White does have a bit of leeway. Remember, there's a 50 move rule. If 50 moves pass with no captures and no pawn pushes...
Well, we have a pawn push now, so now we're going to see Magnus just block that pawn on his promotion square.
Yeah, and I'm struggling to see a winning plan for Daniil Dubov. Maybe he's struggling to see one too, because now Black's bishop will simply stop that pawn. The black bishop will actually sit in front of it, if it can, and maybe there's just no way through for Daniil Dubov. Opposite colour bishops. Maybe Magnus Carlsen got that
You can
fortress.
see it here. That bishop has prevented the king from advancing, so Dubov steps back. But okay, it's looking like a
draw. Daniil Dubov, he just rushed a bit earlier on. I think this bishop endgame should have been winning, but okay, there's still chances. White's king now is going to go the long way around again. Going to try maybe harass that black pawn sitting there in the corner, but as soon as he attacks that black pawn, Black's bishop will defend it. Okay, here we go. Black's bishop defends that pawn. This is why it's so difficult to colour bishop games. Black completely controlling all the dark squares, and okay, wow, maybe that last move by Daniil Dubov is going to create difficulties for Magnus Carlsen. Magnus Carlsen was in something called Zugzwang. Okay, he's lost. Magnus Carlsen, the fortress is broken. Look,
yes.
White sacrifices one pawn, but the other pawn is going to become a queen. Daniil Dubov breaks the fortress and wins.
Wow, what a crazy dramatic game. It ends up with a loss for Magnus Carlsen and a win for Daniil Dubov. Means we are going to Armageddon between Daniil Dubov and Magnus Carlsen. And that means an Armageddon, I guess, with a very confident Daniil Dubov.
Wow.
Yeah, unbelievable.